Hey guys, go make yourself a cup of tea. I have my jasmine green tea here because it is tea time, and I'm wearing a nice and cozy sweater today because I'm gonna be talking about a scary topic to me, and that is my insecurities, or more specifically, having high self-esteem but low confidence. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is, well, first of all, because I touched upon this in an earlier kind of like Q&A video, and I promised I would do a more extensive video about it. Second of all, because I can't really find many sources on this online. Most of the information I find is about people with high confidence and low self-esteem, and you don't really find much information about the exact opposite. So I guess I just wanted to share my experience, chime in to this conversation. And as always, I'd love to hear what you think about this topic. If you have anything to share, please feel free to do so in the comments, and I would love to engage in a discussion down there as well. There's a lot of information I want to share, and it's all kind of jumbled up in my mind, and I'm not sure what order to tell everything in. So I guess I'm just gonna start at the beginning and explain where I think that this comes from in me, kind of the fact that I have a high self-esteem but a low self-confidence in a way. Even before I get into that, I think I should explain the difference maybe between self-esteem and self-confidence, because they are not the same thing. Self-esteem is the way you view yourself, so the way you feel about yourself and the person that you are and what you see in the mirror. And then self-confidence is kind of the faith that you have in your abilities, and it has much more to do with the way that you present yourself, I feel like. You can have a lot of both, or you can have very little of both, or you can have a lot of the one and very little of the other. All combinations are possible. So I think to start this story of mine, I don't want to make this sound too dramatic because it's not at all, but I feel like we have to go back to high school, my kind of like formative years in this regard, I think. The age category when a lot of people form their kind of views of themselves and of others and establish themselves in society, I feel like. So in the Netherlands, high school starts at age 12 and it goes on until, well, that varies from ages 16 to 18 approximately. So as I'm sure you know by now, if you do follow more of my videos, I am an overthinker. I'm also an introvert. I like to be by myself a lot, and I like to think a lot about many, many different things. I do tend to overthink as well, but I also think about myself, I guess, and the person I want to be, what I feel like is right or wrong, and why. And I have just spent a lot of my teenage years thinking about really important things like that, or things that I felt were important to me at the time. And that has made me develop a very strong moral compass and a very kind of clear view of who I am, who I want to be, what I want, and the things that I feel are right and wrong. I have always, pretty much since I can remember, acted on that very strongly. I hold to my values. It doesn't make sense to me to deviate from them. Another thing about me that I feel like is good to know is that I am an individualist, not just in my beliefs, but kind of as a person as well. I struggle a lot with identifying with groups. I don't get the sensations of kind of peer pressure and herd mentality. I'm not sure how to explain this properly, but I just don't really feel those. I can see them happening around me very often. Often when I'm in like large groups of people, I'll notice certain behaviors like across the entire group, and I won't understand where they're coming from and why they're happening. And I always feel like I'm kind of looking from the outside, even when I'm in the group, even when I should be considered part of the group. So I don't know much about this phenomenon and why it is. I haven't really looked into that much, but obviously kind of peer pressure, herd mentality and things like that are very prevalent in high school, and kind of knowingly not engaging in that isn't something that makes you very popular among peers at that age. Just a little example of that. I have always had huge respect for teachers because I cannot imagine standing in front of a group of teenagers whose literally only goal is to make your life miserable at that moment, all day for, let's be honest, a pretty meager pay, trying to teach them something. I just, that is so beyond me, and I find that so incredible. There are actually people who are willing to do that for us as teenagers, and I've always kind of really respected that. So whenever there was a dispute or something, I have always sided with the teacher because I hated seeing my classmates acting disrespectfully towards the teacher and, you know, just getting in those situations where I was just like, what are you doing? What is going on there? Let's just act like normal people or what I thought normal people should act like, you know. So as I'm sure you can imagine, that's not something that's really a cool thing to do, which I didn't care about because I knew I was doing the right thing at the moment. And that just kind of strengthens the whole cycle. What I'm getting at is that I have a very strong sense of what is right and I act upon that. And what throws me off is when that is not in sync with what I feel like everybody else thinks is the right thing to do. Or maybe it's the fact that other people don't always do what they would think the right thing would be to do, if that makes any sense. It's just getting mixed signals, I guess, to me, because I feel like what the right thing to do is something that we've decided on as a society, and then when you do the right thing and you get condemned for it, it's confusing. And that has happened to me a lot throughout my teenage years. So I have always very much lived by the principle of if you harm no one, do whatever it is you want. I guess the biggest way that came through in my teenage years is I wanted to dress however I wanted to dress. And I felt like as long as my clothing wasn't revealing or offensive or in any way, you know, inappropriate, that I should by all means be able to do that. So I did, because I found nothing wrong with it. But I found out pretty quickly that that is just not how society works, and that simply right and wrong and kind of logic isn't all that people go by, and there's a whole next set of rules that I don't necessarily understand or know how to justify or want to act by, I guess. And that has kind of become a foundation of that mismatch that I feel between my values and the mixed signals that I get from what I label society, I guess. So when I would continue dressing however I wanted to, because I felt like there was nothing wrong with it and by all means it should be all right, at times the condemnation I experienced from my surroundings got pretty bad. I mean, people would throw things at me, strangers on the street would shout things at me, I've been followed, people have taken photos of me. All of this happened while I thought that I was doing nothing wrong, or I was doing, you know, something that should be all right. The majority of these people were complete strangers that I'd never met before, so there was no reason for them to behave so negatively towards me. I feel like that's kind of where this whole thing started, because even though I feel good about myself and I am pretty much always confident in knowing that I'm doing the right thing, I often feel like other people don't agree with me on that. So kind of my default setting is I am completely fine with myself, but other people dislike me. Whenever I come into a new group of people or I have to interact with strangers, I always just assume that they dislike me and that I need to kind of prove myself to them in a way or get them to like me, and that in turn is something that I feel incapable of. And I think that that just stems from being really shy and socially awkward, you know, the whole social anxiety thing, and just being an introvert and not really knowing how to make friends or make people like me. All of that paired with these experiences, people outright straight like telling me to my face that they dislike me for no reason at all, has created this whole kind of low confidence thing. So another thing that has to do with confidence and self-esteem, and something that I feel like is a huge part of this for many people, is looks, visual appearance, you know, bodily form. Sometimes people ask me if I think I'm beautiful, and that is kind of always a pretty funny question to me because I honestly do not care if I'm beautiful. And that may be really strange, especially considering that I'm running a beauty channel on YouTube, but beauty to me is not important. I feel like the way you look is a given, and that is just your kind of neutral. That's all right, no matter how you look, everything's okay. And going from there is just kind of fun, you know, to try and look like that and try and look like that. But looking beautiful is not something I attach much value to at all. And it is always a kind of smack in the face for me to realize that other people do attach a lot of value to not only their beauty, but mine as well. So for example, receiving negative comments on my looks on YouTube, people point things out to me that I don't care about at all about my appearance. And most of the time I'm able to brush that off really easily. I just kind of feel bad for those people that they do care about things like that. But sometimes it does hurt. And that is when the things people say refer to things that have been said to me in the past, or things that have been kind of used against me in really nasty ways in the past, like when I was still in school. The main thing being my obvious resemblance to a certain old British comedian. You may have noticed, I don't know if you've noticed, but ever since the kind of word blocking feature on YouTube exists, I have blocked the actor's name, his character's name, all the spelling variations of the name. I just don't want to hear that. That is something that hurts me on a very personal level, and that's why I delete those comments straight away. I don't want to have anything to do with that, but that's just because it triggers, you know, memories from the past that are very painful. And that is something that does make me very insecure, just thinking that I'm walking down the street and everyone sees this person in me. That is just horrifying to me. But that is honestly the only thing about my appearance that I care about sometimes. Just when I receive loads of comments on it, and that makes me feel really insecure. So that's why you never hear me comment on that. Yes, I do know I look like him. Yes, I get told so many times every single day, but it goes straight into the kind of blocked comments section so that I don't have to deal with it, because if that function didn't exist, that is the one thing that I think would break my YouTube career, and that would make me stop doing YouTube. That's the only thing. So yes. There's a rat at the drinking bottle, sorry for that noise if you can hear it. But another thing I wanted to say about this whole beauty thing, something that I always find really funny is when people say, you'd be so much prettier if you didn't make those weird faces and things like that. And I'm just like, I don't understand why people would think that looking as pretty as possible is my goal. Like, can you imagine running a beauty channel and just sitting there trying to look beautiful? That must be horrible. I would never want to do that for a job. I wouldn't want to do that once. That is not my goal at all. As long as you look like you know, somewhat take care of yourself, I'm completely fine with however you look. It is not important to me at all. I value other things above beauty so much I can't even express it. Realizing that other people do care makes me insecure, even though it doesn't kind of diminish my self-esteem. So I guess that is pretty much it. So I'm really curious to hear if any of you, you know, recognize what I'm saying here, can kind of identify with it. Maybe you're the complete opposite, or you can identify with some points but not others. I just love to hear your experience and your opinions and just anything you have to say on this topic. I love to hear. I'm kind of dabbling in a few kind of like psychological things I feel like that I know nothing about. So if you have any more insights, then please feel free to share them. I look forward to talking to you guys in the comments. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for loads more beauty and lifestyle content. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, there's a link in the description box below. Thank you so much. There's another video right here that you may also enjoy. You can go watch next. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon in my next video. Bye!